Hi, Julie Jones from SSB Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training. Here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear and On Point Pest Control. This week, we're talking about the F word that F's it all up. Last week, I had an important message from Catherine Peters, and if you didn't read last week's tip, skip right to the link at the top of the article and read her story. It was all about her persistence and what it took to get doctors to hear her story and hear her pain. And unfortunately for her, it was really late. Since I posted that, I've heard all kinds of stories about similar situations where people had to keep talking and keep talking and keep talking to get people to listen. And then we tied that to Dr. King talking and how long it took even to get Martin Luther King Day acknowledged in all 50 states. But persistence is key to success, and we know that. But this week's question is this: why? Why is it that we can't be those people? Why is it when things don't go our way, we find it so hard to persist? That's the question. You've probably been there. You've had a team, or you've been on a team that seemed to have everything going for them, everything they needed. You even saw it, maybe glimmers of it at the beginning of the season or all through the practice season. You're like, this is great. And then you run into some adversity and poof, it's like it never existed. What happens? What is it in us that pulls back our efforts and our connection and all those things that we know are vital to success? What is it in us? What is it in athletes on a team where they seemingly self-sabotage? All of a sudden, we can't do the little things. All of a sudden, our effort isn't there. All of a sudden, our energy just sort of goes away. All the things that we know that we have. What happens? Why do we fail to persist when things get hard? And I'm not calling out athletes. This is all of us. We all have a hard time pushing through when things get hard. It's just part of nature. But what is it that holds us back? I believe, and watching one of the teams that I'm working with, and I see this, and so does the coach, and neither of us know how to fix it exactly, but I've got some suggestions that might help us today. But I truly believe it all starts with that 4-letter F word of fear. And I was listening to a podcast the other day. I had assigned it to my tactics in the science of coaching class, and it talked about fear. Dr. Jerry Lynch, one of the hosts of the podcast, said this. He said that fear is the cancer of the athletic soul. Fear is the cancer of the athletic soul. What happens when things don't go our way is we start to pull back. And then we know that that's not right. But we're afraid to give. We're afraid to risk because we know it can hurt. We're afraid to push because we don't think it's going to make a difference. We're afraid that we're going to go down that road. Here we go again. You've thought that in your head before. Oh, here we go again. We're going on a losing path, or we're going on the I can't do this path, whatever path that is. But this dissonance shows up from our fear of being connected to, because it's going to be painful, our fear of giving too much effort because coach isn't going to notice it anyway. But this dissonance really pulls us away from where we need to be in order to get things done. We have so much to fear in sport, in any endeavor, if you think about it. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of ridicule, fear of what other people, what our own expectations, meaning our own expectations, fear of disappointing other people, fear of responsibility. We even conjure up fear when things are going great for us. Oh my gosh, it's going so good. When is I should say, my mom was an English teacher. She wouldn't like that. It's going so well. What's going to happen? What if I can't keep this up? Or when's the other shoe going to drop? Or, oh, our life is going so well. Something's got to go wrong soon. Oh, here comes that negativity bias. But that's what we do to ourselves. It's built into us almost. How many times has that happened? You've been cruising along and all of a sudden you're like, oh no. Is it going too well? And then you start to notice, then you start to judge, and that judgment part of your brain takes over, and then whoo, poof, there it goes. But this fear is a catalyst It changes our behaviors. It changes our behaviors, and we know that performance is behavior. Dr. Lynch goes on to say that this kills opportunity because we don't take them, because we're afraid to, not because we're afraid that we can't even do it. We're afraid it's not going to pay off. Who knows what we're afraid of? Why put in the work? It's not going to pay off anyway. We don't normally verbalize these things, but these are the things we're telling ourselves, and maybe we're telling other people. And every time that we say those things, we are causing dissonance in our head because we know that's not what we signed up for. We know that we signed up for sport, that there is going to be challenge. We know that we could lose. We know that we worked really hard to get here, and when we pull back and we don't do the things that we know they're supposed to be doing, we don't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. We never verbalize this. We don't even think about it, but you know that it's true. In fact, we do everything we can to avoid hurting, and then we actually hurt. Dissonance. We want to dump it as soon as we can. So in order to dump it as soon as we can, we try all kinds of different things. We assign less meaning to I really don't care anyway. But whatever it is, we're trying to minimize our pain. And I have a quote here. So studies dating back to the 1950s have defined cognitive dissonance as the discomfort we feel when our behaviors are inconsistent with who we think we are, like when we don't live up to our own expectations. In fact, research has shown that dissonance ignites the part of our brain that feels pain, that is sensitive to pain. So we feel dissonance in similar ways that we feel physical pain. So no wonder we're trying to get away from it. But what do we do to get away from it? We rarely change our behaviors and buck up and do what we're supposed to do. We change our approach. Doesn't mean as much, or we blame the situation. We say that it's the environment. This is not us. We can't do it because of this. We turn into the blame game. We make excuses. I could go on and on about that, but you know exactly what we do because you do it too, because I know I do it. We all do. But the bottom line is this lack of effort makes us feel bad. Inside, we would never admit it because it's coach's fault, or it's the situation's fault, or I didn't get to the right school, or I didn't do this, or this didn't work out for me, or I really don't care anyway. I knew it was going to be a bad season. I'm going to have to go in the portal at the end of the year anyway. Oh, it doesn't really matter. I knew this was going to happen. No, you didn't. At the beginning, everything was great. It's great everywhere at the beginning, and until it's not. So what can we do? Our brain doesn't help us. We know that. Number one, it doesn't like challenge. So, there we go. Number two, we've got the negativity bias. So we find all the problems. Number three, we're trained to react instead of respond. And number four, we don't control our thoughts. And none of these help us when it comes to fear. Fear is an overriding emotion that is based on the fact that we don't know what's going to happen. And that's what sport is laden with. But here's a couple things that we can try to hopefully help get our team out of this fear position or the protect mode and into performance mode. Because there's no doubt that this dissonance caused by our fear is changing our behavior, it's changing our connection, it's changing our communication, it's changing our effort, it's changing our energy, it's changing everything. And those changes are not the changes that we need. So here are a couple things we can do. Ask your team, and I know you have probably done this before, but again, go back to why they wanted to be here in the first place. Not necessarily in your program, because it's not good enough right now in their mind, or maybe not even in anybody's mind around you. But why did they want to play Division I basketball or football or whatever it is? Why? What did they think it was going to be like? Who was happy when they got there? And if those people that were happy when they got there are the people that helped them get there, would they be satisfied with the effort that they're giving? If their grandparents were watching the effort or knew the thoughts that they were having in their head, would they be happy with that? Who are they playing for? And hopefully they're playing for the love of the game and for themselves, but you know that we all hope to make other people happy by what we're doing. And if we're not happy with our inner self, maybe thinking about the influence of other people will help them say, you know what? Oh gosh, my grandma or grandpa and my mom and dad gave me so much to get here. I need to give back to them and step my effort back up. I don't know. Might work, might not. But here's another thing that maybe you might be able to do. Ask them what they thought it was going to be like when they got here. What they think it was going to be like. They really had no idea what it was going to be like. Because how could they? Nobody knows until they get into college athletics how difficult it is, how much time it is, how much competition there is, how you're going to deal with the expectations. But have them write out everything they thought it was going to be. And then have them write out everything that it is. And then have them write out every way that they've grown from the time that they thought it was going to be this until the time that they're sitting here right now. How have they grown? And then finally ask them, how have they responded to the things that are different than they thought they were going to be? How did they respond? Because remember, our responses are a choice. This is putting it right back into their own lap and saying, you chose to respond in this way, but you've grown in this way. You didn't know any better before, but now you've grown in this way, and you are capable of responding to the things that you thought were that are different than what you thought they were going to be because of you've grown in XYZ ways. And your response to this hasn't shown that growth. So what can you do to adjust that? What's one thing that you can do differently to face or respond to the things that are different than you thought they were going to be? Because you're not the same person. You're better, you're smarter, you're more mature, you're stronger, you have a better knowledge of the game. How can you use that growth to face those differences? Because right now they're probably looking at them as that high school kid that said, you know what, this is not what I signed up for. Well, it's what reality is. So what are we going to do with it? How are we going to respond to it? It might work. I don't know. It might not, but it can't hurt anything. How do they choose to respond? They have the power to use the situations that they've been in so far in the new situations as opportunities instead of obstacles, because they're built better now than they were when they got here. They may think they're not, but that's just because they're not finding the success maybe that they thought would come easy. And that's okay. If they persist, it'll come in one way or another. The next thing that we can have them do is have them make a list of what they can and can't control. Fear is looking ahead or focusing on the things that we can't control. That ignites all kinds of fear for all of us. So making the list of what they can and can't control and helping them stay focused on that throughout the game or throughout practice, throughout their quiet time, whatever it might be, can help pull them back and change their perspective to say, you know what, that is out of my control. There is nothing I can do about it. But if I focus on this, it'll make that a little bit better. It'll have a little bit of an influence on those things that I can't control. Sounds too simple, but sometimes we just need that. What can we control? And then it goes back to all the things that they're probably withholding. They can control their communication, their effort, their energy, their connection. All those things are within their control, and those are the things that they're not giving, which is causing the dissonance in the first place. Give it a whirl. In this podcast, Dr. Ben Freakley, who's a mental performance coach, said that he asks the people he works with, I thought this was a really good question, what is the one thing that the team can count on you to do today? What's the one thing that you can do today? So now we are getting back to what can you control? And then he goes on to say, can you do that if we're winning? Can you do that if we're losing? Can you do that no matter what? And of course, the athlete's going to say, yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Because the circumstances don't matter. They don't control us. There has never been a situation in a game that is, barring injury or barring someone actually having a hold of you, that has changed your ability to be fast. If you're fast, your effort, nothing, no situation has ever impeded your physical ability unless you're hurt or someone is latched onto you. Those things can take place. Your skills can present no matter what's going on, winning or losing, getting your butt kicked, kicking somebody's butt. It's your mind that holds it back. And again, if you're not giving that effort, then you're causing dissonance, which is physically hurting you. Because the mental pain feels like physical pain. Our body doesn't distinguish them all that well. And we want to get away with it as quickly as possible. So we're just going to turn it off and say, you know what? It doesn't matter. Whatever. No big deal. Can't wait. What's for dinner? How many times have you heard that? So, how can we get our athletes to reduce their dissonance by changing their perspective of why, what's important, who's important, what do they expect of you? Can you give that for them if you're not willing to give it for yourself? Make yourself feel better in that way. What has changed? What's different than you thought it was going to be? Make a list, and then make a list of all the ways that you've grown, and then make a list of all the ways you've responded to things that are different, and then how can you maybe change your response to those to make them opportunities? And then again, back to the control list, back to what can you do today, no matter what. And if we can lay that out, maybe we can get them to say that there is nothing around me, no situation that changes my ability to play. This changes my ability to play. No, nothing anybody says, nothing anybody does, barring any physical impediment, of course, changes my ability to dribble down the court, to take a shot, or whatever it might be. So I'm giving myself back control and understanding that circumstances might change us. They make us feel a little different, but they don't control us. We get to choose. So this week, how can we identify the fear and talk about it? It's real. Everybody has it. Why do we try to hide behind some tough guy, I don't really care attitude? And talk about what the fear does to us. It creates cognitive dissonance, which is uncomfortable. And then finding ways to eliminate that dissonance in healthy ways, usually by changing our behaviors and changing our perspective, is going to free us up to use the skill and the talent and the training that we have. So what holds you back? That F word that F's it up. If we face it and we talk about it, maybe we can make a dent in it. Good luck with that to all of you that need it. If you have thoughts or comments, I would love to hear them, because if we could write a book on this, whoever we are, if we could figure it out, it would be an awesome thing for everybody. But we know that our innate parts of us as humans, we try to protect. And that's normal. But it doesn't help us win. So we've got to figure out how to win, whatever win means. And facing our fear and eliminating our dissonance in positive ways is one way to do that. Have a great week. If you'd like to talk about fear and adversity and facing those things with your team, I have a 3-week program. Send me an email. Let's get your team signed up and see if we can help them build some tools to help them manage their dissonance when it shows up. JulieJ at ssbperformance.com. Have a great week.